live. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited to be sharing today our interview with Ali Long. And what's really fun, I always start my interviews with how I was introduced to the person of the hour. And what's really fun was I heard about Ali, and I can't quite figure out which event, if it was actually your first event, your second event, or which one it was, but I was invited through Method Bar downtown Milford to one of your retreats. And so what was so cool and crazy was it was literally like 6 minutes from my house, maybe even 5 minutes. And so I had the pleasure of seeing Allie's vision come to life at an event where she brought in multiple people to serve in their gifts and their talents. And as a attendee with a few of my friends, we experienced things that I had an idea about, things that I had never heard about and experienced. And it was so beautiful, I didn't want it to end. And so that was my introduction to Ali Long. And then through the years, it's so wild through my hockey mom, Sarah, and a hockey team where my friend Sarah lives in Grosse Ile and I'm in Milford, and our boys played hockey in Ann Arbor. And if you're not from Michigan, I just want you to know these places are not close. They are hours apart. And so we were talking, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, my girlfriend just wrote a book." And I was like, "Oh, that's all cool, really?" And she's like, "Allie." And I'm like, "Is it Ali Long?" She's like, "You know her?" I'm like, "No, she doesn't know me, but I know of her, da da da." And so she has a number of, we'll talk about this at the end, events. She has a local business. I want you to know her because you would think that she is 10 people
Mhm.
because she's a person that is absolutely purpose-filled on utilizing her skill, her talent, and her passion for health along with her faith to make sure that she is bringing the greatest tools and resources to everyone she comes in contact with. So she is one person that has an absolute the greatest amount of passion, and I'm so excited I got to actually physically meet her in person last week at a prayer brunch over at the Ivy in Brighton. And there's something special when you meet someone and they're even bigger in person. You can see based on the details of what she does and how she does it so purpose-filled. And yet when you meet her, yeah, it's even
Mm.
better. So I can't wait for you to know Allie. So at this point, Allie, I would absolutely love for you to share what you do and going back to, where this passion came from and the specifics because of, all the venues of what you have, your books, the access to greater health, the movement, like the plethora, the multifaceted options that you have for people is something to be admired. So will you share to, where all this came from?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I just want to start out by saying it's God's strength, not my own, because what you just described can feel superhuman. It can feel superhuman. And as a mama, and as a wife, and as an entrepreneur or a business owner, or even if you just have a really busy full-time job, we feel like an octopus half the time, right? With needing these 8 arms to reach out to everything. And so I want to be very clear. I don't strive to be busy. I don't strive to be busy, but I naturally am busy because I'm so passionate about what I do. And oftentimes I have to come back, hand on my heart, hand on my belly, close my eyes, and have a moment where I ask myself, is this project or is this event or is this whatever I'm doing in alignment with what God has called me to do? And if the answer is no, I have to sunset it, and I call it sunsetting. My
Mhm.
brand is Sunny Side Up Wellness. So we do all things sunshine around here. And I call it sunsetting because I feel like that feels less permanent, right? I have a podcast, but I have sunsetted my podcast because I'm so I have so many other projects going on. And I feel like I want to give your listeners, Maggie, permission to sunset things in their life that they need to sunset. So I want to go back to, I actually didn't realize that our first encounter was at the Sunshine Retreat. And that is so beautiful to me. And I love that you shared that because the Sunshine Retreat, I feel, is such a pivotal project for me for so many reasons. And so I'll go back, I'll start in 2020 and then I'll go back even farther. In 2020, we were all, you guys know, we were forced to be apart, we were scared, we were lonely, we were cautious, we some things were happening, really big profound things, and we just didn't know what to do during that time. And there was so much beauty that came out of the ashes in 2020. And the Sunshine Retreat was one of those things, those beautiful things that was birthed out of the ashes. And I've been a fitness instructor since I was 19 years old. And I'm 46 and I'm still teaching fitness. So fitness is my jam. Movement is what heals me. Movement is what keeps me healthy and motivated and mentally sane. My mental sanity is in movement. So in 2020, when we were told we couldn't go inside, we couldn't be near each other, the fitness studios were shut down, the libraries were shut down, so much was happening in this time. A friend happened to invite me to a barn, her barn. And I went and I took my family and we had like a little gathering there. And Maggie, I stepped into this barn. It's called a Quonset hut. If you're familiar, a Quonset hut is a cylindrical barn, meaning it's like a barn, but it's got like a metal roof, if you can picture that. And I stepped into this space. And have you ever stepped in somewhere and you're like, I got to do something here? I got to have a retreat here. I got to have a workshop here. I've got to bring my family here. Like, you just know there's like a moment. And so that is how the Sunshine Retreat was born. I asked permission. I said, could I gather other fitness instructors, other entrepreneurs, other wellness people? Could I gather some nourishing food? Could I gather women from all over Metro Detroit and men? There were some men there too. Could we have a place to gather? You know, because we're feeling so isolated, because we're feeling so alone, could we have this space to just come together, do some yoga, do some fitness, do some breath work, do some cold water therapy, learn about ways to heal our mental, physical, and emotional body? And 88 people showed up. 88 people showed up in 2020. It might have been more than that. That's just the number that I remember. And I love that so much because it's the power of community and it's the power of not doing it alone, right? And that's also the same time that my business was birthed. When I was 10 years old, my sweet grandma, who's not with us anymore, she's my angel. I feel her all around me. When I was 10 years old, she gave me a reflexology card, a little card that shows a map of your feet. And your feet are a pathway to every part of your body. The top half of your foot represents the top half of your body. The middle is the middle of your body, and the lower part of your foot is the lower part of your body. So when you do acupressure points in the center of your foot, for example, it's working on your intestines. And I love to share that because you can heal your own body through your feet. So at 10 years old, this was instilled in me. And I truly think that she is my why, one of my whys, my inspiration. She was just this sentient, beautiful, light-filled being. And she always signed everything with love and light. And so I feel that in me. I feel that in me. And so in 2020, as I mentioned, the Sunshine Retreat was birthed, but my business was also birthed. And it was, I named it Sunny Side Up. I started a podcast to talk about mental health. I started a business to talk about wellness, created a website. And let me just say, if you're at the beginning point of creating a business and you're like, wow, how's this even possible? How could I create a podcast? How could I create a retreat? How could I get a group of women together in my living room and talk about what God has put on my heart and where he has guided me? The answer is don't do it perfectly, just do it. Don't get so caught up in the perfection of it that you don't do it because the world vastly needs your gifts and talents. Don't hide your light because you're afraid. Opportunity and growth is on the other side of fear. And so don't hear me share my story and think, oh, she can do it, but I can't. Because that is not true. And for me, God is my greatest strength. I couldn't do anything I'm doing without his guidance and wisdom. And um, so anyhow, podcast was started, Sunshine Retreat was started, my business was started. And in that window of time, um, I did a bunch of research on what I wanted Allie 2.0 to look like for career. And we can go there too. I'll pause after I share this to see, Maggie, what questions you have. But I came from a nonprofit background. I graduated from Michigan State University. Go green. um, and I had a degree in marketing and ended up working for a nonprofit for 13 years. I had a goal of $3 million. I was raising money for this nonprofit. I was traveling all over Metro or the Midwest. The Midwest. I had Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana were my territory. I was pumping breast milk in bathrooms of airports. And that's when I hit the brakes. That's when I went, something isn't right here. Something isn't in alignment. I don't want to be pumping breast milk in bathrooms. I want to be home with my babies. And how could I make that happen? How could I make that possible? And that's when God planted that seed of what Allie 2.0 career-wise would look like. So, and I can dive into that as well. But did you have questions on what I just shared or anywhere you want me to expand, Maggie?
Oh my gosh, this is so wild because as you're sharing this, I want to say, I don't know if you would see my registration. Feel like I came to the second one.
Okay.
Because I think you already had one because a friend had invited me, and I feel like it was I need a shirt, and you might need one as well. Sorry, I can't have hockey or a sporting
Yes,
event, right?
totally. Right.
So I want to say it might have been 2021, maybe even 2022, but literally, yeah. So to see it flourish is so incredible, and also to know that it birthed from, like you said, ashes, where I've really been working on my next season of accountability, which is what a lot of people come to me for, and understanding where we get challenged. And it's a story. It's a story of whatever happened. Did it happen to us or did it happen for us? And so many people get rooted in it happened to me. Oh my gosh, this is awful, which was COVID. I mean, there was a lot of things that shifted in not such a good way. And until we get specific about how we're really going to shift, which again, you shifted into action, shifted into service, you shifted into giving and adding value in a time that that certainty is so powerful. I felt it, didn't even know you. I absolutely felt it without a center of a doubt. Yeah, it's because you have such a beautiful faith that you knew that, again, I feel like I say this in every interview and I keep getting the chills. It's so cool. Which my grandma always said that meant the angels were visiting you. And when I was little, I was like, you're kind of crazy, Grams. And now I'm like, bring it all on. I will take all the support, help in all the good ways that I possibly can because that's what it's about. So, with that, understanding that I felt your creativity, the specifics behind it, and to know that it was centered around your grandmother, I was taking notes and did not know the specifics of. I know reflexology from a number of my clients and good friends, and they love it and it's so passionate, but I don't think I got the details of how our foot is broken up into those
Mm,
three placements. I
yeah.
did do a bath, a foot bath of baking soda and apple cider vinegar the other night, and I was like, this needs to be part of my ritual. It was awesome. And I can only imagine because of the detox and the things that it helps with. So, knowing that it came from your grandmother and that reflexology is absolutely beautiful. Did not know that the barn was called that. Can you say that word again?
Yeah, Quonset hut. Quonset hut. And we called it the Q. We had it there twice. Quonset hut just means cylindrical barn. And there have been moments where I was like, okay, God, if this is your will, Give me 40 acres where I can have my own Quonset hut and my own wellness space. And I don't know, maybe in the future, right? But yeah, Quonset hut. We called it the Q.
Okay, it's interesting because I was like, I thought it was simpler than that, but that's why. Okay, so I think I was at the second one for yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's so crazy. I love
Super
it. I love
cool.
it. I love it. So
Very
very
serendipitous. I love that word, serendipitous.
it is. It is. I love it. So I really appreciate you sharing about that. And what I want to point out too is that the journey that we are as women we tend to put ourselves in a segment. And I think that you shared, and I'm so thankful that you shared that segment of change in whatever year that was. Like some of us have babies later in life, but whatever it is, you got married, had a career, and you that career blended into the baby side, which is a blessing to have a baby and to care for a baby, and really that step of breast. I felt like I was going to smell like dairy the rest of my life. Like I was like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, it was such a blessing. But man, if I didn't
Yeah.
spill sometimes more than what I really had organized, and yet that place to allow the question of, am I in alignment? So whether you're breastfeeding or let's switch to what we had the blessing of in that brunch last week, 10 days ago, was on the other side, sitting next to two women who are in retirement. And
Yeah.
it's a different segment, it's a different season to recognizing what's out of alignment and what we need. The book I'm finishing, my first book, so kudos to you because I know you've written a book and it's harder than we want to admit, or at least I would say, because I'm still in it, is understanding what do we need? What is that we believe and where do we need to ask for help?
Yeah.
And that independence of like, I got it. Yes, we do need to take personal responsibility, but that place that you were saying, is this what I want to keep doing? And being able to shift and know that with faith that you had other alternatives and other options, and now you've stepped into so many. So at this point, I think it would be beautiful to explain. So it started with a retreat. You've constantly been in movement. You had the reflexology foundation at a very young age.
Yeah.
So now, since 2020, what all have you created?
Well, I want to double down on the book thing really quick because if you go back to the littlest version of yourself, if you go back to little Allie or little Maggie or little whoever you are listening to this, and think about what your gifts, talents, and ways that you got through the hardest parts of your life. Take a moment to think about what those are. And I will share with you that writing saved my life. And that sounds really bold. That sounds really dramatic to say writing saved my life. But when my parents were getting a divorce, when my mom was moving through an addiction, when I had an eating disorder, when I was, put on birth control and antidepressants as a teenager because I thought something was wrong with me. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I journaled and I journaled and I drew. Um, and it was an outlet for me. And so God planted in my heart and in my life that when you put pen to paper, you can make sense of the madness that's going on. You can't control the madness around you. Control is an illusion. But what you can do is make sense of what's going on in your mind and in your heart and in your body on paper. And so the book that I birthed, the book that was released February of this year, yeah, February of this year, Maggie, it's been in my soul and in my body since I was 10. It's been in my body and my soul. And so our timing is different than God's timing. And I have goosebumps as well because anytime I share the truth, well, I'm always sharing the truth, but to your point, the angels are around me and we're in alignment here. So um, I was leaving Method Bar. You brought up Method Bar. So that's my home fitness studio in Milford. And I was walking out the door and God stopped me dead in my tracks. This was October 2025. Okay. He stopped me dead in my tracks and he said, Allie, you are writing a book this weekend. and it's going to be called Heavy, Unearthing What We Bury. And you are writing it this weekend. And I started laughing. And I'm sure if there were people around me, they're like, is this what's happening here? This girl's like laughing to herself, right? I don't think many people are around, but I said, okay, tell me more. And he's like, yeah, it's happening this weekend. And I happened to be leaving for a women's retreat in Hocking Hills. Hocking Hills, Ohio is this beautiful hiking area, kind of surprising in Ohio, right? Like, who would think? But Hocking Hills, there it is. So I went on this women's retreat and I used every pocket of time that we weren't hiking or connecting or having a dinner or swimming or whatever we were doing. I used every pocket of time to sit quietly in my room and my fingers just flowed. I mean, this is where I talk about God's will, not our own, God's strength, not our own, because I wrote 89 pages of my book in a weekend. I wrote 89 pages of my book in a weekend. And Maggie, when you started off saying Allie does so much, Allie's, got her hands and all these things, that is not possible without God. God gave me the message, He gave me the instruction, and I obeyed. So there's the other piece of obedience. What is God calling you to do? What has God gifted you to do? What has God been nudging you? Where are those God winks in your life? And are you obeying? So writing a book is not easy. Writing a book is not, it's a big undertaking. And also I did it imperfectly for sure, but I wrote that book in October and I self-published it in February. And I have sat on it longer, added to it, edited it more, created more seasons, more chapters? Absolutely, I could have. But you know what? That's not what it was about. It was God calling me to birth this book, bring it to the world, and then sit back and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this book? So that's kind of the story of how the book came to be. Um, and it's a part of my business, right? It's a big part of my story, who I am, where I came from, the heavy that I've carried, how writing helped me get through the heavy, and then all the other tools that have helped me get through the heavy. And so, Maggie, just to circle back to your question, the book very much is a part of my business because I am in school to become a naturopathic doctor. After I left nonprofit, okay, so 13 years of Allie being in the season of nonprofit, decided that I didn't want someone else to raise my babies. I was, gone a lot, and just felt that that season of my life was over. I had a death of career. I am talking I'm going to be totally transparent because I want you to feel this and know this. If you're walking through the season of walking away from a career, or you just retired, or there's some season you're stepping into that feels like a death, it is hard. A year and a half of tears, not knowing what was next. How am I going to make money? I am completely lost. I don't know what to do and I don't know where to go. And little by little, I just kind of found my way. I tried this, I tried that. I kind of felt my way through it. I was working behind a desk at a yoga studio. I was doing social media for a dermatologist. I was picking up little odd jobs here and there. And I was like, what feels right? What makes sense? I was feeling my way through it. And at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, as I'm researching what it would take to go back to school to become a psychiatrist. This is what I'm doing at 3 a.m. Maybe that's what I want to do in my one beautiful and wild life. Mary Oliver said that, right? What are you going to do with your one beautiful and wild life? I'm researching, maybe I want to be a psychiatrist. No, I love wellness. Is there such thing as a specialist in wellness? Just like looking up all these things. And this school popped up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan called the Naturopathic Institute. And the Naturopathic Institute is an in-person school. It's a 4-year program where you go to school one full weekend every month. You're there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you're in class. And after 4 years of schooling, God willing, you graduate as a naturopathic doctor. And you have to take all the boards and do your intern hours. And I truly think at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, God led me to that website. You know, God led me to that place to say, okay, Allie, this is where you marry it all. This is where you marry your love of reflexology, your love of movement, your love of yoga, your love of breath work, your love of community, and your faith. And you bring it all together and you create this business. And that's scary, right? That's like starting a whole nother version of yourself. So please don't hear this thinking she could do it, I couldn't. Because if I can do it, you can, right? So yeah, I'll pause there, Maggie. Hopefully I didn't go on too many tangents, but
Oh, never, never. I'm like totally like enthralled myself. So,
oh,
uh,
good.
I love the way you describe that and what I see. And it was something I read, and forgive me, I don't know who to properly give the credit to this quote. It's not my quote. But as you're describing this, your roots are this beautiful tree that you planted a seed. Your grandma was part of those roots of the reflexology, the movement, the wellness. And I don't know if you know this or you've heard this before. Oh, it just gives me the chills. I love it. I love it. So this next level and being able to know that, again, like you said, the boards, the time, the investment in the classroom, to be able to have this level of education along with the development of yourself to be able to have the communication of what you're going to offer to someone in the truest part of wellness and giving them all of what you've learned and gathered over your lifetime. It is the fruit of the tree. And
Mm,
we, or not we, how do I describe this? It's so fascinating. Again, I'll have to look it up and find out the proper person to give credit to in this quote. The tree does not eat its own fruit. So like when a tree bears fruit, it's for the value of others.
others.
And what is it to be? The last of what comes to the tree. The roots are first, then the trunk, then the branches, then the leaves, and then the
The
fruit.
fruit. Yes.
Which I love, and I didn't know this about you. And time-wise, I didn't know your age, which doesn't matter, yet it matters because so many times people will beat themselves up, especially women, I dare say, because of the changes that we do make when we get married and when we do have children or choose to care for children. That it does, the names and the titles and the hats that we wear. Oh my gosh, it's like
The
wild.
octopus arms.
Yeah, 100%. The octopus, like, oh, where is this gonna go? And yet, truly, when you were describing that, it's literally, it's the fruit it's developing on the tree because that is something of a nourishment you can't quite explain.
Mm.
And I think it's so beautiful because you didn't stop and say all the things that we do say to ourselves in part of my book is the 10 deadly D's. And one of them is doubt. We doubt ourselves. And when we doubt, we do without. And then we also lack in that area of our talents and God-given gifts that we don't open them. We don't use them. We don't pass them on and pay it forward. So 4 years is a lot of time. And knowing that you have all the things that you have going on is even more beautiful. Yet that I wrote it down, that obedience. It's so beautiful. So many times we get this idea, and if we're around people who like to put water on our fire, we say, "Oh my gosh, what about this?" And then that one friend is like, "Why would you do that?" Bleh, 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 bleh. And then we're like, "Oh, you're right." No, no, I do not agree. And that's part of our worthy collective. It's a completely different space that be it able to say to a woman, "Sounds great. How can we support you?"
Yeah.
Because you've got to have those people that are like, hey, let me bring you some wood. I may not know how to light the fire. I may not know anything about anything, or I'm going to introduce you to someone who knows where to find the wood. You know what I mean? Like we all know the place around the fire, but we want to be a part of the warmth. We want to be a part of that excitement and that joy to really see what's possible. Because when you stand close enough to someone who says, I did this, you're like, Me too, in my own way. And I say this all the time. We are so unique. We all have different and unique fingerprints. And there's no competition
Yep.
whatsoever, because there's plenty enough to go around. And that energy is so sacred and so special. Oh my goodness. I had no idea the depth of where this came from and being it was just recent. That is even more exciting.
So my signature on my email for probably over 15 years has been be yourself, everyone else is taken. Be yourself, everyone else is taken. And Maggie, you hit the nail on the head. And this, I wish I could shout it from the rooftops and and help every woman to understand this. And men too, but we talk about women just because we are so hard on ourselves and we have so many roles and so many hats. Nobody is going to do it like you. So if you are in a circle of women or a circle of friends, they're like, no, that's already being done. That, or you have this negative self-talk. No, there's already that business. She already did it this way. Nobody is going to do it like you. Nobody's going to give it your flavor. Think about a pot of chili. If you add garlic to the chili, it's going to change the flavor. If you add hot peppers to the chili, it's going to change the flavor. You are that special sauce. You are that special ingredient. And I love watching women flourish. It lights me up to see women step into their power. And I will never operate from a place of competition, always from a place of community. And I want the women out there to know too that if you are in a circle that it feels competitive or it feels icky or it feels off or it feels out of alignment, you can bow out with grace. There are communities out there like the Sunshine community, like Maggie's community, like all these communities that we're a part of. Come to the prayer brunch and see for yourself. There are communities that will hug you, pray over you, and cheer you on. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons my faith is so deep and so strong, is because when I put myself in circles where people are praying over me and we can talk about Jesus openly and we can talk about obedience and faith and trust, it changes everything from a place of beauty, not from a place of judgment or discardment. You know, you are the one sheep that he came after. And that's how I show up in my business and in my life.
Well, it's absolutely felt 100% for sure.
Good.
And I think that that is such a good question to ask because in that very small space to recognize, are those around me adding to me? I think it's an exercise we've all been experienced. If you put somebody's name down, do they, is a person that plus makes you feel better, or is it a negative that like in a bad way where, and I'm sure in your coaching and, in the hard conversations of health, they're like, well, let's talk about rest. When you're calling somebody out to be responsible, which I just learned is responsibility, that one word, we must
Mhm.
respond and we do have the ability.
Mm, I love that.
So, realizing that when we're frustrated about something and somebody's calling us out in love, it can feel a little daunting. And yet, when we hold somebody tight through that process to say, this is what I'm going to recommend, it's going to be uncomfortable, but there's a difference in uncomfortable, like you said. And this is so beautiful because so many times people are like, well, what about, do you guys talk about God? I can't imagine my life without my faith. There's no way we could achieve what we're achieving without it.
Yeah.
And it's a fear. It's a fear that that trust, being able to not only trust God, but trust yourself and
Yeah.
being able to like take those steps are so powerful. And like you said, there's so many beautiful groups, yet understanding that there's something very special when you balance. No, I don't want to say balance, there's a rhythm, but when you blend, that's the word I wanted to say, blend together your wellness with your
Mhm.
movement and all these pieces that you're taking with you, it is so incredible. So, in writing your book, and I know you have a retreat coming up, so I don't know when somebody's going to find this. So we'll make sure that the link is there. But before we finish, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to double check with my questions because I just got completely
Yeah.
blown
No,
away
I
by
love
your
this.
story that I didn't know fully. So, okay, so if I were to step back and ask, I feel like I know it and you've covered it a little bit, but specifically, what's the most important lesson you've learned on your journey to success, both in life and business, that you wish more people or maybe specifically women might know or would that they knew? Sorry.
Mhm. What's the most important that I wish more women knew? So, in this season of my life, in my late 40s, mid to late 40s, had I known in my 20s how important getting quiet and finding that time to pause and reflect was, I think I could have transformed and changed my nervous system a lot longer ago than now. And why this is so critical and why this is so important is from a physiological standpoint. When we are living our life in fight or flight, when we are going through every day just surviving, it affects every facet of your being. It affects your nervous system, your circulatory system, your lymphatic system, your endocrine system. This is soon to be Dr. Allie speaking now. um, we have to, ladies, embrace the pause and do everything within our power to find calm, and clarity will come through the calm. Clarity will come through the calm. And there is something to meditation. There is something to sitting quietly, drowning out the noise and asking God for wisdom. There is a lot of power in that, and that is a part of this conversation. But even more, what I'm talking about is if you feel yourself spiraling, you are running from soccer practice to making dinner to hockey practice to work to vacuuming the house, and you're constantly a paper bag blowing in a parking lot. You are not in a state of calm, and your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight, and your body doesn't know the difference. Your body always thinks you're running from the tiger. And so we have got to have a conversation, ladies. We have got to find a way to have you wake up in the morning, close your eyes, swing your feet off your bed, take a deep breath and say, I give my day to God. I can find calm. I can find clarity. Whatever that mantra is to you, take 3 deep breaths before you even step off that bed. Go step out on your porch, look up to the sun, take a moment, take a couple of deep breaths. And then throughout your day, if you're spiraling during work or you're spiraling during, kid stuff, or you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever these moments are where you just need to excuse yourself and take 3 deep breaths and have those moments to be closer to God, to step into your breath, to find those quiet moments, that is where the clarity comes. That is where the peace comes. And that is where you start to build a foundation that you don't have to run from the tiger anymore. You can't thrive if you're constantly in a state of stress. And that is why I can't stress enough rest and the pause and the calm. Those would be like the critical things that I wish I would have done more in my 20s.
So very valid and important for us to reflect. And yeah. So for
But
whomever,
sometimes easier said than done, right?
oh,
Sometimes easier said than done.
well, and I think that that's the part where I kind of giggle at like certain ages, and I think we're defying ages. They say now that, certain ages are different. I remember when I heard somebody say they were 50, and when I was little, they looked a little different,
50 felt old, right? Yeah.
Well, they're saying that the difference between retiring at 55 and 65, it's different because our longevity, we're living longer because we're making better choices.
Yeah.
When we make better choices, we do live a longer, more beautiful life. And age is just a number. So I think it's really important. And I love this because we are in control of more than we realize. And when we were talking about control, it's so silly. We can only control ourselves and how we start our day, how we end our day. Like so many times I will say it's how you start your day, but let's back up a minute. It's how you end the day first and foremost to be able to get up,
I
without
love that truth. I love that truth. You're right.
hitting the, like procrastinating. I was doing a program with younger girls and they were talking, it asked a question, what's something you've been avoiding? And I
Mm.
was like, everybody could just feel them holding their breath. And she's like, getting up when my alarm goes off. And you would have thought she thought she was on an island by herself. And I was like, anyone else? And they're like, oh, I was like, yeah, we all have done it. If you didn't, tell me all your secrets. Yet we've done it. And what are we doing? We're procrastinating. We're hesitating in the very beginning of the day. Yet what you've mapped out is that being able to have that ritual that you can choose to do and things about grounding. Like I remember when I heard about grounding and I was like, what is that? It's a practice. And
Yeah.
you're learning now with your education so deep in medical and what you can do, mind, body, and spirit. It's truly a choice. It's 1000% a choice in what we can choose into.
Yep.
And I wish I could find this, and I'm going to work on this. It was a story about how you could take a tree outside and take a wire and put it into the ground and connect it to a light bulb.
Mm.
And it would absolutely light up the light bulb because of the energy in the ground. And it's
Mhm.
like, if you ever feel off, those simple things, prayer, rest, grounding, meditating, breathing, all these things, they're tools. And I love it. And I love that you admit that because I don't know anyone who is over 40 working and pursuing adding value to themselves, their family, and those around them, especially in a business, who don't look back and go, oh, oops. Unless they had a mentor, unless they had a coach, unless they had someone
Oh,
to come
sure.
alongside them and say, "Hey, let me shortcut this one because that's a dirt road that's going to be really dirty and potholes and rough." And let me coax you over on this side. It'll be more enjoyable. I agree. I agree. I love
And it
that.
also shapes us. I mean, everything we went through shapes us. And I just want to share really quickly because what you said made me think of this. I have a scan in my office in Milford. And when we scan your hand for minerals, vitamins, and heavy metals, that's a whole nother segment that we could talk about. But the scan that I purchased is a French program. And one of the gentlemen that's the founders of the scan has scanned tens of thousands of hands. And the only near perfect scan where the minerals were like pretty perfect, the vitamins were right on key, and the heavy metals were as low as you could possibly see them. The only scan he's ever seen that came even close to near perfect was a monk. Okay, so think about that for a second. A monk, quiet time constantly, a state of peace. I mean, this monk could be eating, I don't know what this monk is eating. He's probably fasting all the time, but I'm sure his diet is pretty clean. But the point of that is how can we be more like a monk in our lives to get,
Mhm.
I mean, you better believe everything's connected, right? Everything in our body, mind, spirit, everything is connected. So, yeah, let's be more like a monk, I guess.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. That is
Yeah.
so good. I'm thinking of uh Shetty. What's his first name?
Oh, um,
I can
I don't
picture him.
know.
I read his book and he studied with monks and it was an amazing book
Was
that
he the
really.
Indian gentleman that you're talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, okay. Yep, yep.
Is it Ray Shet? Not Ray Shetty. Anyway, a
I'm
great book.
forgetting.
He studied with monks and it was incredible what he learned and how he's taken that with him because of that peace, because of the calmness, because of
Yeah,
the specificity in how he spent his time, his energy, his thoughts. Oh,
yeah.
good. Ray, I almost said it. Something Ray, not Ray Shetty. I'm gonna think of it. Anyway,
We'll
you'll
put
find
it in the notes. Yeah, we'll
I
put
know.
it
I'm
in the
like,
notes for sure.
okay.
But there's
Um,
so many great, beautiful mentors out there for sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially who take the deep work, and that's what he did is he literally put himself in that position to be a monk. And it was like, yeah,
Hmm.
life-changing for him. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine how in depth that took and changing everything and being able to really, really be.
Wouldn't it be interesting to scan like Mother Teresa, to scan Jesus, to scan like really, negative people in history too, and like see, oh, they were deficient in manganese. Oh, they didn't have enough magnesium, just to like see what was going on. That would be really fascinating to see.
I think so too. I think
Yeah.
it's, yeah, so
Yeah.
interesting. So tell me, how do you maintain focus, clarity on your vision, especially when you are faced with challenges and self-doubt? I mean, I know that you've overcome it, um, and I know you have a plethora of how routine rituals and things that you do. Is there a focus that you have specifically?
um a focus that I have, not necessarily, but I reset as an introvert. I
Okay.
am a very extroverted person, and I live my life out loud. But I have to reset in quiet time. I need space to myself. Even just to unplug and reset for an hour or two, I'm a nicer, better, more flourishing human, wife,
Mhm.
mom, daughter. So that would be my answer that I would think of, is I reset my focus in quiet time.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's very intentional.
Yeah.
And it's again going back to obeying self and knowing your self-awareness of what you need and where you must step in because no one else is going to do it for you. I mean, we'd love it if, a really good friend's like, I think you need, like that's the girlfriend who's like,
Mhm.
I think we need a night out. Well, we need that. Yes, at times. And we also need to listen to ourselves. So I love that.
Yeah.
What daily habits or practices have been key in your personal growth and achieving your goals? Maybe outside of having your mantra, deep breathing, dedication to God, grounding. Is there anything else that we might have missed?
In my goals to basically stepping into the best version of me, is that kind of what you mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I think you just used the word intentionality, and just constantly asking myself, am I being intentional with my marriage? Am I
Mhm.
being intentional with the dialogue I have with my children? Am I being intentional with carving out space for client follow ups? Am I being intentional with friendships? Um, I think that's really key too. And let me say, it is a daily thing. Um, Offer yourself grace for falling off. I fall off all the time. I'll be really intentional in work, but not intentional and all at home. And I just have to have a come to Jesus moment in that moment and go to my husband and hug him and say, I'm sorry. We haven't connected lately. We haven't even had dinner together this week. Can we get it on the calendar next week?
Mhm.
And start marking your calendar off for your workouts. Start marking your calendar off for date night. Start marking your calendar off to remember to hydrate.
Mhm.
Literally, use your
Mhm.
calendar for all these things. I have literally done that before, where I'll put it at the top of my calendar. Don't forget to drink your water. Take a little walk break. Go out for a 15-minute walk. So it's the intentionality.
Agreed. I think it's beautiful. And um, Stacy just taught this last week, and she did the age old, if somebody doesn't know about this, I'm sure you know of it, Allie, where you take a jar and you have big rocks, sand, pebbles, water, and if you put the water in the jar, nothing else is going to fit. But if you put the big rocks in first, then the pebbles, then the sand, then the water. You get way more in the jar, but it's at the intentionality of what is on your calendar. What are you going to make a promise to yourself
Mhm.
and be able to be self-aware? Ooh, do 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 do. Uh-oh. My oldest love language is quality time. I
Yeah.
need to make sure, and if you don't know what those are, that's a great book, Five Languages of Love. There's a quiz. Yet you can also just simply ask, hey, what do you need this next week? And then you can also be able to say, this is what I need. That
Mhm.
doesn't, I'm working on that. I have a house of teenagers. So I'm like, yeah, but it is that conversation and being intentional about those conversations to the ones we love
Yeah.
because that can be the greatest. Beautiful. Okay, one last question.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you balance your ambition and rest, ensuring that you stay aligned with your values and avoid burnout because you are working on all the things, especially now this level of education? So,
I think my only answer to that would be compartmentalizing and planning and segmenting. And I say that because even just today, it's depending on when you listen to this, like this weekend for us is 4th of July. So we've got family coming over, we've got friends coming over. And in my mind, I am thinking of when am I going to find time to, prepare the snacks, to clean the house? But then I also have client follow-ups and I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G that I have to do. And so in order to not get stressed, in order to not let my old anxiety ways, right? The older anxiety that used to bubble up and set me into a tizzy, I have to take that deep breath and I have to say, okay, I'm going to make a list. This is a list of everything I have to accomplish for work. This is a list of everything I need to accomplish at home. And I'm just going to be very realistic about here's what I need to accomplish first at home. Here's what I need to accomplish first at work. And then allow myself to, to segment, to compartmentalize. I'll get a little bit done on Sunday. I'll get a little bit done on Monday. And it kind of just takes the load off, right? And again, it's that writing, it's that pen to paper, or maybe it's the note section of your phone, Maggie, like you'd mentioned before. Um, that's the only way I can keep it straight. And let me offer you some grace because if you're thinking, I've done that, I've tried that, and it doesn't work, try it again and then try it again and then try it again because you have to keep revisiting it. We have a dry eraser board in the kitchen. And the dry eraser board is if there's something that needs to be purchased at the grocery store, mom is not the only one writing it. If the milk is out, please write it on the board. If we
mhm,
need toothpaste, please write it on the board. I'm not the only one that lives here. And then I
mhm.
have a dry eraser board in my office. My dry eraser board in my office is you need to follow up with these people. You need to write birthday cards to these people. And then I can see it and I can check it off because I'm sure there's 500 books about the power of writing it down and checking it off,
Oh,
right?
thousand
Yeah.
percent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that pen to paper is the most beautiful gift. And because my mom has Alzheimer's, how much I've researched in the things that can really trigger strength in our brain, and it's literally the pen.
Yeah.
And even more so, what I've learned all the way down to the detail of the color. Because something that's
Mhm.
going to come out at the paper, like simple blue versus black, it's going to be more of a place that you can remember what it is that you're writing. And we were talking earlier of a holiday weekend like this,
Yeah.
that like Allie had shared, she's not in her office, but it doesn't mean our brain is stopping. It doesn't mean it's shut off, and it's a system. And when we have solid systems, then we don't pray victim to ourselves. And so
Mhm.
as she's doing things, she's going to be like, oh, I thought of so and so. And I believe whenever God gives me someone on my heart, I need to take action. And now we have the action that we can. Like, hey, you crossed my heart. That's all. That's all I got. If I got are you okay? Or something like that, I'll say it. And I believe it's such a special energy about ourselves. Yet then taking notes in our phone when you can say, I need to do this. This is my to-do list. And then you can reassess and chunk it out when you need to. Yet make an appointment with yourself and being able to give yourself that grace through the pace of it all. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else that has crossed your heart that you haven't shared that you would want somebody to know about you, learn, or take away from today?
I think we covered a lot of really beautiful things today. And I love whenever I'm doing a podcast or an interview or speaking with somebody, I always leave it up to God to see what he's bringing forth. And so the only thing that came up in the moments before you asked me that question, and maybe this is just from him, straight from God, um, you're going to plug yourself in somewhere. You're going to plug yourself in somewhere. Every day we plug ourselves in somewhere. And I'm picturing a plug to the sky, right? You can decide right now in this moment, are you going to plug into source? Are you going to take that plug and plug right up into source and that's where all your power is going to come from? Or are you going to take that plug and plug into the news
Mm.
or social media? Where your plug goes is where your energy is going to flow. So you could even just picture yourself right now, right to the sky. Plug it up to the sky, say, I surrender, I give it to you. Please guide my steps. I will be obedient. And yeah, that's what came to me. So I just want to remind everyone listening to this that, God made you for such a time as this. We are all here right now for a reason. We all have the gifts that we have for a reason, and we're better together. We're better together. So thank you for this opportunity, Maggie. I love that we came full circle and that we're sitting across from each other having this beautiful conversation that I hope so many people feel seen, feel loved, feel supported. And however we see each other in the community, you are always welcome at a prayer brunch. They are monthly. You are welcome at the Sunshine Retreat. Come see me at my office in Milford. Come check out a yoga class on top of a hill. Just reach out. And Maggie, to your point too, if somebody's on your heart, reach out to them. Send a text. Even better, send a handwritten card. The lost art of handwritten cards, right?
Oh, oh my gosh. I had a nice little discussion with my son. He was like, "Really, mom?" And I was like, "Well, let me just tell you, people don't print texts or emails." And there's something about the handwritten word, and literally nowadays more than ever, to get a stamp, to have a card, to get in the mail, and literally have that treasure is such a beautiful gift. I
Mhm.
asked for somebody's address, and there wasn't a whole lot of energy understanding me and who I am. And I had to recognize like that hurt my heart to think like, that's okay. I understand. Yet nowadays, you never know that there is something that good can come from the mail. You know what I mean? Like there's such a treasure because you can hold that in your hands and you can read it over and over, and it can be a beautiful gift. So I love that you shared
Yeah.
that too. Oh my gosh, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth.
We are. We are.
So I will make sure in the description of this video that you will have all of Allie's information because Allie clearly has things that you can physically be in her office, and she also has resources and tools. I know she's working on some amazing classes. She has a number of ways for you to gather what she has grown from and be able to be in unity and a space to learn to heal and have the desires of your heart. And so, Allie, thank you so much for your precious time. I'm so grateful, and the best is yet to come. I know that for sure.
Amen, sister. Thank you. Thank you so much.